1,000 motorcycles descended on Gary, Indiana, forming a fortress of steel and leather around a single tiny house. They weren't there to protest. They were there for Amara, a 9-year-old girl the police had dismissed. What the ring of predators hunting her didn't know is that she had walked up to their leader, tugged his vest, and whispered the 5 words that just sealed their fate. "Sir, he follows me home. Before we dive deeper into story, I need to know, where are you watching this from? Help us get this channel to 1,000 subscribers. God bless you for joining the family. In the heart of the Rust Belt, where the American dream has rusted into skeletal remains, lies Gary, Indiana. The air here doesn't smell like opportunity. It smells like cold iron, damp concrete, and the lingering failure of shuttered steel mills. This is a city of ghosts, where factories stand like hollowed-out cathedrals to an industry long dead. The wind that whips off Lake Michigan carries a permanent chill, whistling through the broken teeth of abandoned neighborhoods. This isn't just poverty, it's an absence of jobs, of hope, and of safety. This is the world that 9-year-old Amara must navigate every single day, a landscape of urban decay that serves as the backdrop for a quiet, creeping horror. She knows these streets are hungry. And then there is Amara. She is small for her age, with eyes that seem too large, too old for her face. They've already seen too much silence, too much shadow. She lives in a small, prefabricated house where the thin walls do little to stop the Indiana cold or the sounds of the neighborhood at night. Before we dive deeper into Amara's story, I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city and country in the comments right now. Let us know what corner of the world is standing with Amara tonight, because this little girl, armed with nothing but a tattered backpack and a worn-out pair of sneakers, is about to face a darkness that most adults would flee from. Amara isn't alone, not entirely. She lives with her grandmother, Nana Rose. Nana Rose is a woman built of faith and brittle bones. Her hands, gnarled by severe arthritis, can barely grip a coffee mug, but they remain clasped in prayer most of the day. She is Amara's fortress, but a fortress under siege. Nana Rose's world has shrunk to the 4 walls of their living room, her recliner a throne of pain and love. She knows the world outside is dangerous, that the 6 blocks to the corner bodega are a gauntlet, but her medication won't retrieve itself, and the milk won't magically appear in the fridge. The government check barely covers the rent, leaving nothing for delivery fees. This makes Amara the runner. She is the household's legs, its emissary to the outside world. This 9-year-old child bears the responsibility of a provider. She navigates the broken sidewalks and the watchful empty lots to fetch Nana Rose's prescriptions and the half-gallon of milk. Her innocence isn't just threatened, it's been weaponized against her by circumstance. She clutches the crumpled dollar bills in her pocket, her knuckles white. She doesn't complain. She doesn't cry where Nana Rose can see her. Instead, she hums, a low, quiet tune to fill the oppressive silence of the empty streets, pretending the sound is a shield against the things that watch from the shadows. Her purity isn't naive, it's defiant. In a world determined to crush her, Amara maintains a quiet kindness. She carries a small, spiral-bound notebook, its cover adorned with a sticker of a superhero she drew herself. In it, she sketches, not monsters, but heroes. She draws caped crusaders standing guard over small houses. She draws giant, protective animals standing over little girls. This is her armor. While the world shows her decay, she insists on creating protectors. She is a small light in a vast, suffocating darkness, and she refuses to be extinguished. Her goodness is an act of rebellion in a city that is surrendered to despair. But the darkness has noticed her. It's been watching. It has a shape. It's the shape of an old faded blue sedan, the kind of car that blends in, the kind nobody ever looks at twice. It started 2 weeks ago, parked near her school, just watching. Then it was near the bodega, the engine idling, the windows tinted just enough. Amara felt it before she understood it, a cold prickle on the back of her neck, a change in the air, the feeling of being prey. The driver wasn't doing anything illegal. He was just there, always there, a silent, patient predator waiting just outside the circle of light. We know him. The narrator knows him. His name is Mr. Davies. To the few neighbors who notice him, he's just a quiet man, maybe a retiree, maybe someone down on his luck. He looks utterly forgettable. That is his power. He is the monster that looks like nobody. But the eyes behind that windshield are not empty. They are full of a sickening hunger. He has memorized Amara's schedule. He knows the exact time she leaves the house and the exact moment she'll be on the most isolated stretch of sidewalk between the bodega and her front door. He is savoring the fear, drawing out the hunt, waiting for the perfect moment of opportunity. And recently, the hunt has changed. He is no longer just watching. He is following. happening. The blue sedan now creeps along the curb about half a block behind her. The sound of its low, uneven engine has become the soundtrack to Amara's nightmares. She tries walking faster, but the car just speeds up slightly. She tries ducking into an alley, but the car just waits at the other end. She is trapped in a terrifying slow-motion chase. She told Nana Rose, her voice barely a whisper. The blue car man is following me again, Nana. She sees the terror in her grandmother's eyes, and it only confirms her own. This is the essence of helplessness. Amara is surrounded by towering, abandoned buildings, monuments to a forgotten prosperity, yet she has no one to turn to. The streets are empty. The neighbors lock their doors at dusk and don't open them for anyone. There is no community watch. There is no trust. The social contract in Gary, Indiana, has been breached, torn up, and thrown away with the trash that lines the gutters. Everyone is on their own. This isolation is the predator's greatest ally. It thrives in the silence, in the averted glances, in the profound loneliness of a city that has stopped caring about itself. So Amara walks. She clutches her little notebook of heroes, whispering their names under her breath. She is a good girl in a bad world, a pure heart being stalked by an insidious evil. She is completely, utterly alone, abandoned by a city and a system that should be protecting her. She doesn't know it, but she is walking directly toward a collision, not with the evil she fears, but with a kind of justice she could never have imagined. A justice that rides on two wheels, smells of gasoline and leather, and answers to a code that the rusted-out world has long forgotten. Her small act of courage is about to light a fuse. The only light on Amara's path comes from the Hub. It's a classic American diner, a relic from a better time. Parked on the edge of the forgotten highway, its neon sign sputters, "Eat," casting a weak, buzzing glow onto the cracked asphalt. Inside, you can see the silhouette of a waitress pouring burnt coffee for a lone trucker. This diner is an island of weary light in an ocean of industrial darkness. It's supposed to be a safe spot, a landmark on her desperate journey. But tonight, this island is occupied. The air doesn't just smell of stale grease and coffee. It smells of gasoline and wet leather. Amara rounds the corner, clutching the small white paper bag containing Nana Rose's pills. The bag is damp from her sweaty palm, and then she hears it, the low, familiar rumble of the blue sedan. It's behind her. Closer this time. He's getting bolder. Her heart hammers against her ribs like a trapped bird. She wants to run, but her legs feel like they're sinking into the concrete. She looks ahead, toward the diner's light, praying for a miracle. What she sees instead feels like a judgment. The light isn't a sanctuary. It's an obstacle. It's a wall of noise, chrome, and leather. A dozen motorcycles, mostly heavy Harley-Davidson cruisers, are parked in a menacing line right in front of the Hub. They look like sleeping iron beasts. Standing among them are the riders. They are large men, broad-shouldered and thick. They wear the uniform of the outcast, faded denim, heavy boots, and leather vests. Their cuts, bearing the insignia of a club. The patch is a screaming raven clutching a railroad spike. The Iron Crows VMC, a veterans motorcycle club. These are not weekend warriors. These are men who live by a code the rest of the world has discarded. They are loud. Their laughter is a harsh bark that cuts through the cold night air. They smoke cigarettes, the red embers glowing in the dusk. They are covered in tattoos. Ink spills from their collars and cuffs. Stories of a life lived hard. They are the men mothers warn their children about. They are the boogeymen of the Midwest. The few other pedestrians on the street give them a wide berth, crossing to the other side, eyes down. Even the cops in Gary tend to leave them alone, seeing them as a problem that solves itself. They are a tribe, separate and intimidating. And the leader of this tribe is a man known only as Grizz. He is a mountain, standing easily 6'4", with a chest like a barrel and arms thick as tree limbs. A long, graying beard is braided down his chest, and a healed scar cuts a white line from his eyebrow to his cheek. His eyes, set deep under a heavy brow, have seen things. He's a combat veteran, an ex-Marine, and he radiates an aura of absolute controlled danger. He is the very definition of feared. He leans against his bike, laughing at a joke, a creature of pure, unadulterated intimidation. This is what Amara sees. This is her new nightmare. She is frozen, trapped. The sidewalk is a narrow corridor. To her left, the boarded-up windows of a defunct payday loan office. To her right, the street. Behind her, the creeping, silent dread of the blue sedan. In front of her, a wall of giants. Mr. Davies, the predator, has slowed his car to a crawl, parking across the street. He's watching. He sees the girl. He sees the bikers. He's enjoying the show. He's watching to see what the rabbit will do, caught between the fox and the wolves. Amara's mind is screaming, run, hide, disappear, but there is nowhere to go. She is 9 years old and she is standing at the epicenter of two opposing forces of menace. The familiar, insidious evil behind her, and the new, terrifying, unknown danger in front of her. The bikers haven't noticed her yet. They are in their own world. All she has to do is walk past them. Just walk past 12 men who look like they eat children for breakfast. Her breath comes in short, ragged gasps. She can feel the tears welling up, hot and stinging in the cold air. But then, something crucial happens. Grizz stops laughing. His head tilts, just slightly. He's a veteran. He spent decades in places like Fallujah and Kandahar. He didn't survive by being unobservant. He feels the shift in the atmosphere. He feels the fear. He turns his head, and his eyes lock onto Amara. He sees the small frame, the backpack, the white-knuckled grip on the paper bag. He sees the abject terror in her eyes, and he is the first person to truly see it, not as an annoyance, not as an exaggeration, but as a fact. He follows her gaze. He sees that she is not looking at him. She is looking past him. Her terror is directed at something behind him. Grizz slowly, deliberately, turns his massive frame. His eyes scan the street. He sees the faded blue sedan parked across the road. He sees the silhouette of the driver, motionless, watching. He doesn't just see a man in a car. He sees a posture. He sees the hunched forward, focused stillness of a hunter fixed on his prey. He's seen that look before, staring through a rifle scope. A cold, professional rage begins to build in his chest. The other bikers notice the change in their president. The laughter dies. The cigarettes stop. One by one, 12 large, dangerous men turn their attention to this silent, terrifying tableau. The foe, predator in the car, and the prey on the sidewalk. They don't move. They just watch their leader. They wait for the signal. The world seems to stop. The only sound is the low, thrumming idle of the Harleys and the wind whistling through the steel skeletons of Gary, Indiana. Mr. Davies, in his car, feels the shift. He feels the weight of 12 pairs of eyes. He should leave, but his arrogance holds him. Amara, in this moment of crushing silence, makes a choice. It's a choice born of pure, unadulterated desperation. She has no heroes. The police failed her. The neighbors ignore her. The world has offered her no protectors. So, in a moment of impossible, heartbreaking courage, she decides to ask the monsters. She ignores the evil she knows and walks toward the evil she doesn't. She takes one small, trembling step, then another. She walks directly away from the curb and stops in front of the largest, most terrifying man she has ever seen. The Iron Crows VMC holds its collective breath. This little girl, this wisp of a thing, walks right into their space, right into the personal bubble of their president. She doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She just stands there, vibrating with fear, but rooted to the spot. Grizz doesn't move. He doesn't want to scare her. He just watches her, his expression unreadable. He waits. He lets her make the next move. He understands that this is a fragile, sacred moment. The air is so tense it feels like it could shatter. She has no money to offer. She has no power. She has no weapons. All she has is the truth. She looks up, her head barely reaching his belt. She has to crane her neck to look at his face. She sees the scar. She sees the wild beard. She sees the eyes that have seen war. And she reaches out her tiny, trembling hand. She doesn't grab him. She doesn't pull. She just lightly, barely tugs on the bottom edge of his leather cut, the sacred vest that holds his club's patch. The world stops. The city noise fades. The rumble of the engines is a distant heartbeat. Grizz looks down from his great height at the small hand on his vest. He looks at her face, and then Amara speaks. Her voice is not a shout. It's barely a whisper, a sound that should have been stolen by the wind. But in the sudden, absolute silence of the bikers, it lands like a thunderclap. It cuts through the leather, the tattoos, and the years of cynicism. "Sir," she says, her voice shaking but clear, "he follows me home." It's an accusation. It's a plea. It's an act of blind, desperate faith. She has anointed him. She has chosen him as her protector. This child, abandoned by every safe institution, has just walked up to a pack of wolves and asked for help. This single, pure act of trust lands on Grizz with the force of a physical blow. It hits him in the gut, in the place where his Marine Corps honor lives, in the part of his soul that went to war to protect the innocent. He looks from her face to the blue car, and the cold, professional rage boils over into something mythical. He has been given a mission. The air around the Iron Crows crackles with a new, terrifying energy. The moment Amara whispers, "He follows me home," the world shifts. Grizz, a man who survived roadside bombs in Fallujah, feels a chill climb his spine that no insurgent sniper ever gave him. He looks across the street, his eyes locking with the silhouette in the blue sedan. He doesn't just see a man. He sees a wolf. Mr. Davies, in his car, feels it too. He feels the weight of a dozen alpha predators marking him. His anonymity, his greatest weapon, has just been vaporized. He slams the car into drive, the tires screaming in protest as he peels out, disappearing into the industrial twilight of Gary. Grizz doesn't watch him go. He already has the plate. He already already has the make, the model, the distinctive dent on the rear passenger door. He turns his full attention to the child. He drops to one knee, a gesture of supplication. A mountain, bowing. The sheer size of him, now at her eye level, is overwhelming, but the menace is gone, replaced by an intensity that feels like a furnace. The smell of road dust, gasoline, and old leather envelops her. "What's your name, little soldier?" His voice is a low rumble, like gravel pouring into a barrel. "Amara," she whispers. "All right, Amara. You go on home. Use the main street. We'll be watching." She doesn't have to look back. She runs, the small white pharmacy bag clutched in her fist, her sneakers slapping the pavement. But she's not alone anymore. She can hear it, the glorious defiant roar of 12 V-twin engines firing up in unison. It is the sound of controlled thunder. They don't follow her closely. They don't want to frighten her. They peel off, one by one, taking parallel streets, blocking intersections as she passes, a moving, roaring perimeter of steel and leather. It's the first time in months she hasn't felt like prey. She feels, for the first time, like she is something precious. That night, the Iron Crows do not leave Gary. The Hub Diner becomes their impromptu command post. Grizz finds out where Amara lives, and they set a watch. Using military-grade reconnaissance skills honed in war zones, they take shifts, parked in the deep shadows at the end of her block, engines cold, just watching. The system has already failed this girl once. They won't let it fail again, and their vigilance is rewarded. At 2:17 a.m., the blue sedan returns. It glides down the street, headlights off, slowing to a crawl as it passes her house. Mr. Davies is back. He's testing the perimeter. This is the escalation. The sheer audacity of the man, returning to the scene after being confronted, sends a shockwave of cold fury through Grizz. The situation for the protagonist has just become exponentially worse. This isn't a casual threat. It's a dedicated hunter. Grizz decides to give the system one last chance to work. He dials the Gary Police Department. He is not a scared old woman. He is a Marine Corps veteran, a citizen, reporting a crime in progress. "My name is Grizz. I'm at the corner of 8th and Madison. I am visually observing a blue Ford Taurus, Indiana plate X-ray Bravo 779, conducting surveillance on the house of a 9-year-old child. The response is a slap in the face. A sigh of pure bureaucratic indifference comes through the line. "Sir, we already got a call about that car, from the grandmother. It was checked out." Grizz's voice drops. "Checked out? It's 2 in the morning and he is here right now, parked in the dark." The dispatcher sounds annoyed. "Sir, being on a public street is not a crime. My hands are at—" Grizz cuts him off. "Don't you dare say your hands are tied. I'm telling you, a predator is active at this location." The dispatcher's tone turns cold, defensive. "Look, Grizz, we don't have the manpower to send a unit for every creepy guy complaint we get. We have actual violence to deal with. He hasn't touched her. He hasn't broken a law. You and your buddies need to move along. If you harass him, you will be the one I arrest. Do you understand me?" The line clicks dead. The system, the safe institution, didn't just fail. It actively, knowingly, stepped aside. It gave the wolf a hall pass. Grizz lowers the phone. The vacuo morale is now complete. The police are not the answer. They are part of the problem. They are the enablers, the willfully blind, the exhausted and cynical gatekeepers who have decided that Amara's fear is not worth their paperwork. He looks at his men. He looks at the blue car idling in the darkness. The law of the land has officially failed, which means the law of the club is now in effect. This is no longer a civil matter. This is a mission. But the situation for Amara is far darker than they know. The failure of the system goes deeper. Grizz makes a decision. They won't confront. Not yet. They will gather intelligence. 2 of his men, scouts in their former lives, detach from the group and follow Davies when he finally leaves at 3 a.m. They follow him not to his home but to a place that makes their blood run cold. A defunct, boarded-up VFW, veterans of foreign wars, post in the industrial wasteland, a holy place. A place of honor. Now, desecrated, the bikers watch from the shadows of a neighboring warehouse, and they see other cars arrive. A late-model sedan, a minivan, a pickup truck. 5 other men, all looking painfully normal, slip inside the abandoned building. Using skills they should have left in the desert, the bikers get close. They find a grimy, cracked window, and they look inside. What they see rips the breath from their lungs. It's not a drug deal. It's a meeting. There are photographs spread on a folding table. Photographs of Amara and of other children. This isn't a lone wolf. This is a pack. Amara, with her impossible courage, didn't just point out a stalker. She stumbled onto a network, a ring of predators, operating right under the noses of a police force that's too busy, too tired, or too corrupt to look. They are using the carcass of Gary as their private hunting ground. They are sharing information. They are planning. And Mr. Davies, the man the police refuse to even question, appears to be the one in charge. The protagonist is now in mortal danger. She is no longer just being watched. She has been identified by an organized group of monsters. The failure of the system wasn't just one lazy cop. It was, the entire structure. The rot went all the way through. The police, the schools, the city officials, all of them, by ignoring the decay, had allowed this cancer to metastasize. They had dismissed Nana Rose as senile. They had dismissed Amara as too sensitive. The bikers slide back into the darkness, the weight of their discovery crushing them. They know with absolute certainty that they cannot take this to the Gary PD. The evidence would get lost. The ring would be tipped off. The local system is, at best, hopelessly incompetent, and at worst, actively complicit. This goes far beyond a single man in a blue car. This is a sickness. Amara and Nana Rose are completely, utterly alone. They are two small, good souls in a house with a flimsy lock, and a pack of organized patient monsters is circling. The system has failed them at every conceivable level. It has failed to protect. It has failed to listen. It has failed to see the evil hiding in plain sight. This total, catastrophic abandonment creates the justification for what must come next. The despair is absolute. The law is a joke. The institutions are hollow. There is no one to call. There is no safe place to go. The police have made it clear. They will not help. They have culpability. Their dismissal of Amara's fear, their insistence that no crime was being committed, is the very camouflage these predators rely on to operate. They gave them the darkness to hide in. Grizz and his men return to the diner. The sun, just a dirty rumor in the eastern sky. He sits in a booth, the cold evidence from his cell phone glowing on the screen. The photos, the license plates, the video of the men entering the VFW hall. He knows 12 men isn't enough. You don't hunt a pack of wolves with a handful of dogs. You need a tidal wave. You need an army. He looks at the photo he snapped of Amara on her porch, clutching her drawing book. A good girl, a brave soldier. The system, in its infinite callous bureaucracy, had decided she was expendable, that she was an acceptable loss. They had dismissed her. They had dismissed her grandmother. And they had dismissed the bikers as a nuisance. They made a fatal miscalculation. They assumed the Iron Crows were just as broken and lawless as the predators they ignored. They didn't realize they had just insulted a brotherhood of veterans who live by one code: we protect our own. And Amara, by placing her hand on Grizz's vest, by placing her faith in the monster, had just made herself one of them. The system's failure just lit a fuse, and the explosion is going to be biblical. Grizz sat in the worn vinyl booth of the Hub Diner, the sun just a dirty gray rumor in the eastern sky. The evidence on his phone was damning, a digital map of a sickness that had taken root in the city's bones. He knew what the police had told him. My hands are at. He looked at his own hands, scarred and calloused, resting on the Formica table. They were not tied. He opened his phone, not to the 911 dispatcher, but to a secure messaging app. He sent one simple message to the presidents of VMC chapters across 3 states. Code red, Gary, Indiana. Wolves in the fold. I'm calling the marker. It was not a request. It was a summons. The marker. In the world of veterans motorcycle clubs, the marker is a sacred debt, one that can only be called in for matters of life, death, or profound honor. Grizz had earned a dozen markers over the years, pulling brothers out of financial ruin, standing guard over widows' homes, finding men lost to the VA system. He had never called one in, until now. He was cashing in every chip. He was calling for the flood. He wasn't just asking for his club, the Iron Crows. He was asking for the Steel Redeemers in Wisconsin, the Highway Saints in Ohio, the Devil's Disciples from Illinois. He was calling in the entire brotherhood. By 8 a.m. the first sound was heard. It was not a sound Gary was used to. It was a low, distant vibration, the kind you feel in your teeth before you hear with your ears. The few early morning workers at the surviving factories thought it was an earthquake. The cynical cops at the precinct thought it was a freight train derailing. But the sound didn't fade. It grew. It became a rumble, then a roar, a deep, guttural promise of approaching thunder. It was the sound of 1,000 V-twin engines, a mechanical symphony of retribution echoing off the skeletons of the steel mills. Then they were seen. They came not as a group, but as an army, a tidal wave of chrome and black leather cresting the I-90 overpass. They poured into the city, not in a chaotic swarm, but in disciplined 2x2 formation, a river of steel that choked the main streets. This was not a gang. This was a military operation. They rode in silence, their faces set, their club cuts flapping in the wind. 800 bikes, then 900. By the time they reached the city center, the count was over 1,000. A legion of America's forgotten, come to reclaim one of their own. The city of Gary stopped. It held its breath. The reaction was not curiosity. It was pure, unadulterated terror. Shopkeepers ran to their doors, pulling down the rusty steel grates. The sound a metallic scream of panic. Residents who had locked their doors against the night now peered through their blinds, their eyes wide, convinced this was an invasion, a war. The Gary Police Department, the same one that didn't have the manpower for Amara, was in full-blown panic. The dispatcher's board lit up like a Christmas tree. 911 calls flooding in. They're everywhere. They're invading. The few patrol cars on duty were hopelessly outmatched. 2 officers tried to form a blockade near the town hall, parking their cruisers sideways. It was a pathetic, symbolic gesture. The column of bikers didn't even slow down. It simply parted, flowing around the blockade like a river flowing around a rock, the sheer force of their presence pushing the cruisers to the curb. The cops just sat there, radios squawking. Rendered utterly impotent, they had failed to stop the one wolf, and now they were faced with 1,000 lions. Their authority was a joke, and the punchline was rolling past them. The terror in the city was palpable. Where were they going? What was the target? The bank? The police station? Were they here to burn the city down? But the column, this army, was not moving toward a symbol of power. It was moving toward a symbol of vulnerability. The main force, hundreds strong, turned onto 8th Street, Amara's street. The neighbors watched in silent horror as this battalion of giants rumbled past their chain-link fences, the ground itself shaking, vibrating the pictures on their walls. They were not looking for a fight. They were looking for a 9-year-old girl. And then they stopped in front of Amara and Nana Rose's tiny, flimsy, prefabricated house. With the precision of a drill team, 200 bikers fanned out, forming a perfect, multi-layered perimeter. They didn't get off their bikes. They just sat, engines idling, a low, thrumming wall of protection, a fortress of chrome, leather, and brotherhood appearing out of the dawn. They faced outward, a silent, menacing message to the entire neighborhood. This house is protected. This child is ours. The wolves are no longer welcome here. Amara, hearing the thunder, had peeked through the curtains, expecting to see the blue sedan. Instead, she saw an army on her lawn. She saw Grizz, who parked his bike directly at the end of her walkway, a sentinel at the gate. He nodded to her, a small, grim acknowledgement. Nana Rose helped to her feet, looked out the window and let out a sound, a sob that was half terror, half deliverance. The monsters from the diner had returned, but they weren't here to hurt. They were here to stand guard. They were the wall she had prayed for. But the flood was not just defensive. The rest of the army, the other 800 bikers, did not stop. They split off. With terrifying, calculated precision, they broke into 12 distinct squads, and these squads rolled, not through random streets, but to 12 specific addresses. They rolled into the quiet middle-class suburb where Mr. Davies lived. They rolled into the leafy cul-de-sac of a local politician. They rolled to the apartment complex of an IT technician. They rolled to every single address Grizz had logged the night before. The predators woke up to a nightmare. They woke up to the sound of 50 Harley-Davidsons idling on their front lawns. Mr. Davies, in his pajamas, peeked through his blinds, and his blood turned to ice. His escape route was blocked. His anonymity was gone. His street was occupied by a jury of silent, bearded men who were just watching his front door. He was the one who was trapped now. He was the one who was prey. The same scene was repeated all over the city. 12 predators, each one waking, up to find that the boogeymen were real, and they were parked on their driveways. The city was at a standstill, a powder keg of tension. The bikers just sat, their engines a low, rumbling promise. They didn't move. They didn't shout. They just waited. The local police were too terrified to intervene. The predators were too terrified to run. The entire city was waiting for the first punch to be thrown, for the bloodbath to begin. They assumed this was vigilante justice. They assumed this was a lynch mob, but they were wrong. Grizz wasn't a vigilante. He was a strategist. He wasn't bringing chaos. He was bringing order. And just as the tension reached a screaming crescendo, a new sound joined the low rumble of the bikes. It was a different kind of siren, not the weak, tired wail of the Gary PD. This was the deep, purposeful, federal whoop-whoop of unmarked vehicles moving at high speed. 3 black Chevrolet Suburbans and a half-dozen state trooper cruisers turned onto Mr. Davies' street. The wall of bikers parted, like the Red Sea, creating a perfect, respectful channel for the vehicles. The FBI had arrived. The narrator can now tell you the truth. Grizz made 2 calls from that diner. The first was to his brothers, to bring the thunder and form the wall. The second, using a satellite phone he kept for emergencies, was to a number he'd kept from his service days, a direct line to the head of the FBI's Crimes Against Children Task Force in Chicago. He hadn't given them a tip. He had emailed them a complete military-grade intelligence dossier, time-stamped surveillance footage, license plates, the address of the VFW hub, and a profile on every man in the network. He hadn't called the compromised local cops. He had called in the cavalry. The bikers weren't there to be the law. They were there to make damn sure the real law was enforced. They were there to form a perimeter, to ensure not one of those 12 men could slip through the cracks, could get lost by the local PD, or disappear before the warrants were served. They were there as witnesses. They were there as the wall that kept the wolves penned in until the federal hunters could arrive and do their work. The trap was sprung. The FBI agents, in their blue tactical vests, moved with cold, hard efficiency. They didn't knock. They used a battering ram on Davy's front door. One by one, at 12 different locations across the city, the predators were dragged out, some in their pajamas, some in their work clothes. They were dragged out in handcuffs, not in the quiet of the night, but in the broad daylight, under the silent, judging gaze of hundreds of bikers. Their neighbors, the ones who called Davies a quiet man, watched in horror. This was the true inundation of justice. It wasn't a chaotic brawl. It was a devastatingly precise, two-pronged strike. The bikers, the outlaws, had provided the muscle, the intimidation, and the perimeter control. The FBI, the insiders, provided the warrants, the handcuffs, and the legal authority. Together, they had done what the local system refused to do. They had cleaned the house. They had taken out the trash. The bikers had held the line, ensuring that not one predator escaped. The look on Mr. Davies' face as he was forced into the back of a federal vehicle was not anger. It was the face of a man whose entire world has been dismantled. He looked at the bikers, and in their eyes, he didn't see rage. He saw something worse. He saw cold, righteous satisfaction. He saw the faces of men who had been to war and come back, men who understood on a cellular level that there are some lines that must never, ever be crossed. The community, the neighbors, the local cops, they all watched this unfold. They were forced to witness the total failure of their own system and the terrifying, beautiful efficiency of an outside code. They had judged these men by their leather, by their noise, by their refusal to conform. Now they saw the truth. These dangerous men were the only ones who had listened to a child. They were the only ones who had the courage to act. They were the only ones who saw the wolf hiding in plain sight. The climax was not a scream. It was a click. It was the sound of 12 sets of handcuffs ratcheting closed. It was the sound of 12 car doors slamming shut, sealing the predators away from the light. If you believe that true justice means protecting the innocent, no matter the cost, smash that like button. Show the world that we stand with the protectors, not the predators. Your engagement proves that this code of honor is still alive and well, even if the system has forgotten it. The army of bikers just sat, their engines rumbling, watching until the last federal car disappeared. The federal sirens fade into the distance, a sound of finality. The predators are gone, not just scattered, not just warned, but removed, exiled from the world of the innocent. On 8th Street, the air, once thick with the metallic tang of fear, now just smells of gasoline and cold morning. The silence left behind by the sirens is filled by the low, heavy, thrumming idle of 200 Harley-Davidson engines. The bikers remain. They are a silent, occupying army of witnesses. They don't cheer. They don't celebrate. This was not a victory. It was a sanitation, an extermination of a pestilence. The problem, the network, the 12 men, they are gone, definitively. Grizz and his men hold their ground for a long, heavy moment. They are a living statue of judgment, their chrome engines glittering in the weak morning light. They are ensuring the local police, who are now cautiously emerging from their cruisers, looking dazed, embarrassed, and utterly useless, understand the new reality. The bikers were the authority. They were the system that worked. Their presence is a quiet, rumbling condemnation of the entire city structure that had failed this child. The mayor's office is silent. The police chief is silent. What could they possibly say? An army of outlaws just did their job for them, and they did it with surgical precision, without throwing a single punch. The neighbors, one by one, locks click open. They step onto their porches, clutching their bathrobes. They look at the 200 bikers idling in front of Amara's house. They look at the empty spaces where the federal cars had been. They are looking at the physical manifestation of their own shame. They were the ones who pulled their blinds. They were the ones who dismissed Nana Rose's fears as the ramblings of an old woman. They were the ones who stayed inside, convinced it wasn't their business. And these men, these thugs and vagrants they whisper about, just risked a war to save a child they didn't even know. The prejudice is burning away, replaced by a hot, difficult humility. And what about those local cops? The ones who had dismissed Grizz as a nuisance? The ones who told Nana Rose that Amara was too sensitive? They stand there, hands on their utility belts, their authority rendered completely meaningless. They are extras in their own jurisdiction. They were not part of the solution. They were the obstacle the solution had to bypass. The FBI didn't even loop them in. They were treated as what they were, irrelevant. This is the ultimate humiliation. The Iron Crows and the VMC didn't just expose the predators. They exposed the incompetence and cowardice of the entire Gary Police Department for the world to see. Then, Grizz finally kills his engine. The sudden, profound silence is deafening. He swings his massive leg over his Harley, his heavy boots thudding on the cracked pavement. He walks up the short path to Amara's porch. Amara and Nana Rose stand in the doorway trembling. Grizz removes his dark sunglasses. His eyes, the ones that had seen war, are now surprisingly soft. He is no longer a general. He is a man, paying his respects. He unzips and removes his own cut, the heavy leather vest that is his identity, his armor, and his history. He holds it in his hands. He is showing his vulnerability. He is showing his respect. He drops to one knee, a mountain bowing to a child. The gesture is so shocking it stills the air. Amara. His voice is that same low rumble, but the gravel is gone, replaced with something like reverence. You are the bravest soldier I have ever met. You saw the wolf and you didn't run. You stood your ground and you called for help. That is real courage. He doesn't have a medal. He has something better. From a saddlebag he pulls a small folded piece of black leather. It's a vest, a tiny child-sized biker vest. On the back is a single, perfectly stitched patch. The Iron Crow's screaming raven. You're family now, little soldier. You're one of us. Amara, her eyes wide, takes the vest. She touches the patch. She has spent her life drawing heroes, and now she has been given the uniform of one. She looks up at Grizz, and for the first time in this story she smiles. Not a small, scared smile, but a wide, brilliant, gap-toothed grin. And a sound rises from the 200 bikers still watching. It's not a cheer. It's a low, deep rumble. They start tapping their chests over their hearts, a rhythmic thudding sound. Thump, 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 thump. The heartbeat of the Brotherhood. It is the sound of acceptance. It is the sound of a promise. She is no longer invisible. She is the protected daughter of the Iron Crows VMC. The message of this resolution is total. The predators are gone. Their network shattered by the FBI thanks to the bikers' intel. Amara is not just safe for today. She is guarded for life. That tiny vest is a shield. It is a symbol to the entire city. It tells any other evil lurking in the shadows of Gary, Indiana, a very clear story. This town is no longer your hunting ground. This child is off limits. Her family is 1,000 deep, and they have the FBI on speed dial. The fear that defined Amara's life has been replaced by a power she never knew existed. The entire dynamic of the city has been permanently altered, but the justice is not just symbolic. What about the house? The flimsy walls and the broken porch step that Nana Rose always tripped on. As Grizz stands, bikers from the Steel Redeemers Club, many of them union carpenters and electricians, are already unloading tools from a support truck. They are not leaving. They are staying. They are fixing Nana Rose's broken steps. They are replacing the thin, cheap front door with solid oak. They are installing new windows and new floodlights. They are literally, physically, rebuilding the fortress that the community had let crumble. They are healing the wounds of poverty and neglect, one nail at a time. By noon, the work is underway, and the main army is ready to leave. The job is done. Grizz gives Amara a final respectful nod. He puts his own cut back on, his armor restored. He swings his leg over his bike. He fires the engine, and in one magnificent, terrifying roar, 1,000 engines answer him. The ground of Gary shakes again, but this time it is not the sound of an invasion. It is the sound of a promise kept. The long chrome and steel river turns, and in perfect, disciplined formation, the VMC rides out of Gary, leaving behind a repaired house, a safe child, and a city that will never, ever be the same. We are taught to fear the other. We are taught to judge the book by its cover, to fear the leather, the tattoos, the noise. But today, the safe people, the ones in uniforms and the ones behind locked doors, were the ones who failed. The police failed. The neighbors failed. The system failed. The only ones who listened, the only ones who acted, were the men society told us to fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Amara proved that. Courage is being terrified and asking for help anyway. And heroism is answering that call, no matter the cost. The world is full of wolves. They often wear suits, or drive quiet blue cars, or even wear the uniforms of public service. But the world is also full of protectors. They don't always look the way you think they should. They don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that heroes are real. And let us know in the comments, what does the word family really mean to you? This is the narrator, reminding you to look out for each other, because the system won't always do it for you.